This team is my kink. I think about them at night, trying to figure out what they are. I can buy into them as a pseudo title contender on one night. I'm depressed about their future the other night. How good are the New Orleans Pelicans?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I
I just
saw
Please go.
Schmidt Dua, our guy who does a great job covering the Pels, was mentioning basically like Point Zion is going to determine the second half of their season, which I think is a very fascinating
He's
thing to
back too.
monitor.
Like they
Yeah.
finally they get away from it, and I can't remember who I was listening to mentioned this, and I thought it was good, which is why I'm interrupting you. Is that do they just not trust that Zion will be available when it matters most, and that's why they get away from Point Zion so much? But I agree with you and Schmidt that Point Zion is definitely going to define their ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting just because they are in this mix of top six seeds, and it does still feel like they're still kind of trying to figure themselves out a little bit and figure out their hierarchy. So the answer to your question is I have no idea how good they are, and I honestly don't think they even know either. I think they are still working through a lot of like which combinations of players work best with one another. And I mean, if there's a fundamental question of who should be our primary ball handler 50 games into the season, that means we've still got a lot to figure out over these final 30 games before the playoffs begin.
Yeah, they confuse the hell out of me, and then and like I appreciate that they've tried some stuff where it's like, okay, you've seen Larry Nance Jr. start second halves, and they've been like the starting unit isn't good, but they've been good in first halves and not so much in second halves. And then it's you want to say there's Zion and Brandon Ingram, and for some of this season it was true. They're just functionally hard to build around as your two players. But then you think of the data, it's like Zion's efficiency is just a lot better this season with both Zion and Valanciunas on the floor than with one or both of them off. And so, yeah, he might get to the rim a little bit more, but so like that confounds you like in totality. And then the other thing that's confusing as hell is just how good they are on the margins. And this was the problem with them when you tie it to the trade deadline is, and I didn't see a lot of people calling for them to make a move. There was a very clear, we talked about this in our Discord, join our Discord, link is in the podcast and YouTube description, that they had a clear need, but there was no one, and it's rim protection that came with one or both of roll gravity or like outside floor spacing. Those players are not available in droves, so you weren't going to find them. But if you were going to find them, they needed to be better to either one, force you to move one of your guys who are really good, or to usurp these guys in the rotation who are really good. And there's so much to like about them, though. And they've had like, so ever since they dropped to, I think it was 12 and 11, they're one game over 500. They were injured. Not to say the sky was falling, but like the vibes weren't great. Since then, they are top 5 in net rating with a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. Herb Jones, not all the data supports this. He's better on offense. Like he's hitting the corner threes. Those clips and the volume have gone up. He's just, I have never seen him perform this well in transition as a decision maker, as sort of a finisher. That's been huge for them. And then like Trey Murphy, he goes through these sort of peaks and plunges, but then it's like you look at what he does as a shooter, an off-ball mover, as even a guy who can keep the ball moving when he gets going downhill. And you look at their individual pieces, and it's Jonas Valanciunas can carry them on a night and outplay Alperen Sengun against the Rockets, in part because Zion Williamson's not playing, so you're able to feed him more. There's all this functional overlap that works, but it doesn't, like, can you reach your peak with it? And then what is the best version of yourself actually looking like? I think, again, we both, and Schmidt has pointed this out time and again, that it's with Point Zion, but like that's not necessarily maybe Brandon Ingram's best bet, but then it also works at times, like, or not at times, but like we've seen it work to a high degree. And you love so many of the individual pieces on this roster, and you can go to, and they could probably do more of this, the Zion plus all shooters lineup when you're going to stagger him and Brandon Ingram. So you do have that button to press. There's so much and then also just the defense just belies their personnel at this point. I know Herb Jones is good. Trey Murphy's solid. CJ McCollum's been good this year. They've done a great job insulating him, but he's made great decisions when he's kind of defending those weak side corners. But like, you look at this team and it's okay. Zion, Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, and CJ McCollum are playing absurdly heavy minutes. Dyson Daniels can't always stay on the floor because of how raw he is offensively. No, they're just like an elite defensive unit statistically. It's like there's so much to love about this team, but they actually, I'm wondering if they have, maybe this was the question to ask you. Do they have the highest range of outcomes among teams in the league this season where you could say they dipped it down towards the play-in or they lost in the first round, but the Pelicans came out of the West? Like,
Yeah, yeah. If you're like discounting the Sixers for injury reasons, because I
oh
think they're
yeah.
probably, but I mean, otherwise, yeah, probably so. Like you could absolutely talk yourselves into Pelicans get hot, go on a run, figure out which guys work best together. I mean, you brought up Trey Murphy. He's only shooting 35.3% from deep this year. He shot 38.2 as a rookie, 40.6 last year. Like if he bounces back to the high 30s or even low 40s, what does that do for a Pelicans
Yeah.
team that, is one of the more efficient teams from deep, shooting 37.9% as a team, which ranks sixth in the NBA? They're only 23rd in 3-point attempts per game. I know it's something that drives Schmidt absolutely bonkers, as he just wants to see more shooters around Zion and BI, or just Zion or just BI. Like if you can, have guys who can fire, who can shoot
Just get them
at,
up.
yeah, shoot efficiently and shoot in volume. Like you need high volume, high efficiency shooters. That it's really
They got a
Murphy and
Viagra it.
McCollum.
Get it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Exactly. So yeah, I'm curious to see how everything coalesces over these final 30 games, where they end up in the standings, and I mean they just beat the Clippers the other night, and the Clippers have been one of the best teams in the NBA over the last 2 months. So like that's the ceiling, is they can beat the best teams in the NBA. It's just, can you make it to April in one piece with Zion in particular, and then if so, which of these guys are going to be in the playoff rotation, because they frankly have too many guys that they play, and not all of them are going to play in the playoffs.
They're so maddening, and it must be maddening to cover them on a day-to-day basis of just like, well, why isn't Zion? Why does Zion as your point guard not come in drips and drabs, but like, like fade in, fade out type
Yeah.
deal. And then also it has to be you mentioned with the Zion injury, it's kind of a cliche talking point, but it feels like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop with this team. Well, is something going to go wrong with BI or CJ or Zion? Even it's a lot of people who want to see Larry Nance get more minutes. It's like, oh, I don't know. Larry Nance logged 20 minutes tonight. Can his knees take that type
Right.
deal?
Right.
And this team is so fascinating and infuriating at the same. Like I said, they're my kink. They're the team that just like keeps me up. I'm so high on them, but they can toy with my emotions. The dial can fluctuate from 0 to 11 on just any given moment, any given possession.
Yeah, and you brought up Minnesota earlier as a team that, how long is this course sustainable for? I know Schmidt has been all over this as well, but Valanciunas is up after this year. Um, they're already, I think, like 150,000 or 150 million on the books for next year, if not more. I'm just basing that off of Spot Track. So once you re-sign JV, that alone might put you either at the tax or even over the tax. And are the Pelicans willing to pay the tax, or how deep are they willing to go into the tax, or do they need to make some sort of consolidation move this summer? So I think these 30 games in this playoff run is going to be pretty instructive, because, yeah, I know Schmidt has been banging the drum of like all three of the Zion, BI, and CJ are probably not sustainable long term. So which two of them, or which guy is the absolute we have to keep him? Is it Zion because the ceiling is so high, even though, highest ceiling of the three, but lowest floor because of the injury risk? Or do you play it safe and go with like BI as your lead guy, and can he be the lead guy on a title team? I think these are all fair questions, and we're going to find out a lot of answers about the Pelicans in the next couple months.
I saw some people were frustrated too that since they didn't make a move at the deadline, again, just what was the move that would have made an impact? Like
Yeah.
honestly, it just when you look at this rotation, but that now they don't necessarily have tradable salary without dipping into the core. And you mentioned like kind of the core element of that is that was never going to happen. Like, yes, if the
Yeah.
perfect deal came along that they could have used Jonas Valanciunas and picks and Jordan Hawkins or like another smaller salary, if they make a meaningful change, it's going to involve Zion, Brandon Ingram, or CJ McCollum. That's just that's how you're going to upgrade at this point. And they still have like between, if they really wanted to and didn't care about expenses, there's sign and trades with Jonas Valanciunas, but there's also between Larry Nance and then step laddering your way with Dyson Daniels money and Jordan Hawkins money if that deal comes along. But like you said, they're at 158 is what I'm seeing before the Jonas Valanciunas cap hole. And so if he even gets the
Okay.
same salary, they are into the tax. And this playoffs is also going to determine not just this team's ceiling, where they bow out, how they bow out, will determine like, well, are we willing to go into the tax for this core? And
Yeah.
if you're not, or even if you are, what type of change needs to be made to continue furthering our progress here? There's so much at stake for them. I don't know if it's maybe they don't have the most. I haven't gone through that, but like the teams that have the most at stake just
Mm-hmm.
this year,
Yeah.
it might be them.